Welcome to the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. Each week these idiots pair cocktails with comic books. You can find the cocktails, drinking game rules, and playlists on the blog at funnybooksandfirewater.com. While at funnybooksandfirewater.com, you can also find a drinking game rule to play while you listen to each episode. You can follow us at Firewatercast on Twitter, and Funny Books and Firewater on Facebook and Instagram. This is episode 148. Quantum Teens Argo, part of the Comic Book Couples Month.
Welcome to episode 148 of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. I understand now why I kept calling this book Quantum Teens Are A Go, because I had it written down in my notes. It's been deleted and you'll never see it online. Congratulations, I fixed that issue. You now know what happened. Yes, this is week 2 of our month of comic book couples. Because you know what? It's February, man. We're feeling the romance. It's how it goes. I'm also hopped up on caffeinated energy drinks, so this should be entertaining. So we have with us... Oh, I guess... Should we talk about the book real fast? Maybe this won't be as good as I thought it would be. Okay, so book intro.
Yeah.
So,
You're the leader, dude.
Lead us!
yes.
As you have heard, the buck stops with everybody.
Yeah, well, the cat ring. Anyway, so Quantum Teens Go is a book about a teenage couple who uses their spare time to break into science labs and are building their own time travel device, like you do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I built time travel devices with my girlfriends when I was in high school. I know Todd was making plutonium like there was no tomorrow, but that's fine.
Right.
Anyway, so that's what this week's book is. We have, of course, the aforementioned Todd is with us this week.
Hey, I'm Todd. You can find me here as a co-panelist on Funny Books and Firewater. I do another podcast as well that we're behind on, so we'll talk about that more when it's up to spec. So yeah, I'm here in Salt.
Well, by the time this comes out, we should have at least another episode out.
We have another episode out of English Class Hooligans. Great, you should listen to it. Let us know how it goes. Hi, Mom. Thank you for listening. You are our biggest fan.
She is our biggest fan of English Class Hooligans. Does not listen to this show. Thank God.
Thank you for not listening to the show, Mom.
Yes. We also have 2 professional cat wranglers. I'm just an amateur. But cat wrangler number 1, we have Mr. Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason, unemployed writer in Los Angeles and owner of the cat named Bruce, who has an even smaller internet presence than I do.
Wow. Ooh. For a cat, that's pretty impressive.
I know, right? He's very self-restrained. It's good.
Wow. That's, it's because you haven't gotten him that new iPhone yet. He's waiting out till he gets the portrait mode for himself.
Don't remind me.
Bruce wants to take 3D pictures.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, absolutely. And cat wrangler number 2, we have Mr. Maya.
Hi, I am the human of a wonderful cat named Jonesy. You can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at It's the Jonesy. I don't matter. Don't follow me.
Speaking of people who don't matter, hi, I'm Brian. I'm a sound designer based out of California and a grad student at the University of Denver. And yeah, so busy that I have, semester just started and I haven't read or seen anything interesting this week, so I have nothing to recommend at the end of the week. Last week I just blew past it, so same thing this week. So we'll just pretend like my recommendations don't matter. But Todd,
yes,
what is the myification of this week's book?
The myification of this week's book is the I had it here. You've got me here. It's teenagers are scientists too.
Teenagers are scientists too. Oh,
yeah.
I thought this was an image book for a minute, but this is Black Mask, so it doesn't have it on there. Okay.
That is Black Mask.
Black Mask has done some cool stuff. Like they did Cal Exit.
4 Kids Walk into a Bank is amazing.
4 Kids Walk into a Bank. Okay.
That one is amazing to read. Yes. That can be your recommendation, Brian. I give that to you.
Here's the thing is, so I just got an order from In Stock Trades that just showed up, and I realized that I had done this when we'd done the book because your book, Motor Crush, that you had recommended.
Yeah.
Is in that. It was one of those, I'm sitting there on my computer and Todd's like, oh yeah, you should read Motor Crush. Okay, Motor Crush, write that in.
Is that the Terry Moore book?
I don't know. That's Motor Girl, which is Terry Moore. Motor Crush is something different.
Oh no, Motor Girl is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Todd recommended it, I think about by the time this episode comes out, probably about 6 weeks ago. So let's jump in straight away right into drinking games for this week's book. I'm going to go with mine. I'm going to say I'm calling mine Robin Hood, which is take a drink for every time they mention or they actually do break in somewhere, or they mention having broken in somewhere. Mr. Maya, what is your drinking game rule?
My drinking game is called Science! Basically, anytime that they're talking science or any kind of techno-babble, take a drink.
I like the phrase techno-babble. It makes me happy. I don't know why.
If it was Star Trek, it'd be called Trekno-babble.
Oh, is really? Do they have their own version of techno-babble? Really?
Basically, when they're talking about stuff that's like fake science, that's just like a bunch of sciencey sounding words put together, it's called Trekno-babble.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, isn't it? I think it's on Big Bang Theory where they will write into the script science to come.
Yeah.
And they basically have like somebody who comes in and does, all the sciencey stuff. Mr. Jason, what is your drinking game?
Well, since Maya did steal my drinking rule, which was actually going to be called Technobabble.
Oh, nice.
Mine is called By Any Other Name. Whenever someone refers to another person by anything other than their name, take a drink. So if it's Natalie being called Brandon or Sumesh calling someone a motherfucker, take a drink.
Nice.
Cool. Mr. Todd.
So with this drinking game, this is something you have to insert in as you're reading it, and it's not gleaned from the pages itself. So what you have to do is, as you're reading this, you need to ask, is Val Kilmer's character from Real Genius, would it add to have him in this scene? And when the answer always comes back, yes, it would add to have this character in the scene, you should take a drink.
And what are you actually calling that rule?
Real Genius.
There we go. Did you notice that that they just announced that Val Kilmer's coming back for Fan X?
Is he? Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how he's going to look.
He looks
larger than life.
Larger than life,
Yeah.
But he's had is he going to, he had a throat cancer?
Yeah, I think he had like a thyroid cancer or something to that effect. Yeah.
Good on him. Coming back. I mean, keep going, dude. You're the man. You've been Batman.
Yeah.
There's fewer people who've been Batman than have walked on the moon.
And to be fair, he wasn't a horrible Batman, to be honest with you.
I just rewatched that recently, and I didn't hate that movie.
It's more fun than terrible.
Batman and Robin, on the other hand, we don't talk about.
No, we don't talk about that one. That one is relatively awful. But, I don't really hate Val Kilmer as Batman. I really don't. So
yeah, it was all right. I mean, he was the transition from what was before with the Michael Keaton and that passing of Eris. So he was in a tough spot to begin with. But he fit the, the tone of the movie quite well.
Yeah, he did an admirable job. I think he did really well.
Yeah. Isn't that where the U2 song, Kiss Me, Kick Me, Thrill Me, Help Me or something?
Hold me, thrill me, kiss me, kill me.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Go back and check the tape. Check the tape.
No, if you check the tape, you will see that is manufactured lies. I always said.
So Mexico is or isn't paying for the wall?
I was about to say, I feel like I just got trumped.
Dude, they have already paid for the wall. They just don't know it yet.
Fucking moron. Anyway.
Anyway, let's have some votes as to whether or not we believe that you, our dear listener, should take their time, hard-earned time, money, and energy to go hunt this book down and give it a read. What is your vote, Mr. Jason?
I am unfortunately a no.
Okay. Mr. Todd?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Maya?
I'm kind of in the same boat as the last two, but leaning a little more towards yes.
I will kind of probably sit there with Maya as not to get too spoiler into it. I was kind of in with them for a while at the beginning. I'm feeling like, okay, this is doing some interesting things. And then it just never went anywhere for me. That's sort of a little bit of a head spoiler, but it's kind of how I felt that way. Well,
it's kind of like a movie. Would you change the channel if it was on the television?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
I probably would watch the first half and then probably change the channel.
Okay.
I would watch it to the end in frustration, going, why, what, exactly like that.
Yeah.
And you would go,
no, I get that.
That's why we need to add Val Kilmer from Real Genius into this.
Exactly. I would be so drunk.
I would love movie mashups, actually, which would be really great. You know what I mean? Like,
One
take
day.
two movies, edit them together. I know. Well, here's the thing: is the copyright laws and the royalties and all that stuff would just be such a nightmare that I don't know if it would ever legally. I just don't know if it ever happened, but it would be fun. So, let's. We don't necessarily terribly recommend this, but you might as well have some good tunes to listen to while you're reading it anyway. And I'm going to go with mine first because mine is a blatant ripoff of Back to the Future. Mine is Back in Time by Huey Lewis and the News, just because, actually, and really, you may just want to go watch Back to the Future instead. But Mr. Todd, what is your song for this week?
This is the Oingo Boingo classic, Weird Science.
I almost picked that one, and then I went, it's a little too on the nose.
I know. Isn't this fun?
Mr. Maya, what is yours?
I went with Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
Nice. Mr. Jason, what is yours?
And Now Is Not the Time by Churches.
You're such a hipster.
I know, I'm sorry.
Do we have any final warnings? I guess we kind of have spoiled it a little bit. Like, hey, the first half's pretty okay, and then it sort of just falls apart. But do we have any other final warnings before people go and give this a read?
No.
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 No?
No.
Okie doke. Cool. Well, then we will take a wee bit of a break, give you a chance to go ahead and go read this book, and then rejoin us once you are done, if you so desire. Or you can just keep listening, and we're going to spoil the little shit out of it, and that might be a better use of your time. But that being said, we will see you on the flip side.
While we take a break, here is a message from one of our fellow Hello Sweetie Network podcasts.
Hey, I'm Bryn.
Hi, this is Charity.
And this is the place where we talk to each other about true crime happenings from all around our home state of Utah.
I do the research, she drinks wine and clutches her pearls. Listen along as we tell the fascinating tales of real-life people who turned our communities upside down.
And tell the stories of the victims, survivors, and families affected in their wake. Because we love a good mystery, we love a good story, and because this is the place where it happened.
This is the place as a proud member of the Hello Sweetie Podcast Network.
Who wants to do the plot summary? Not me.
Not it.
Not it.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try.
Leaving that game in. We'll have to like cut out us trying to decide who's going to be deciding that game.
It'll be fun when Adam comes back.
If that's our new game?
That's our new game. Just don't tell him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Say that?
Oh, but he might listen. Oh, no, because we might record again before.
That's right. He'll be back.
Yeah.
We'll get him.
This might be a new game. Okay. Well, Mr. Jason.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to give us a brief summary? And like, you don't have to go into a terrible amount of detail. Like, it doesn't have to be a 20-minute summary. Like, it can be like 2 minutes and we'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. So, Quantum Teens are about Natalie and Sumesh, two kids in high school who are building a time machine. The story introduces them by having them break into some defunct robot manufacturing facility, sort of. They steal something, they get out, and then they're back to their normal lives. Natalie is a trans girl transitioning from being a boy, and her parents aren't quite as accepting of that as she wants them to be. And Sumesh has been taken in by some family friends after his parents died. And they left him with this weird collection of science stuff and blueprints that he has started to build a time machine with. And so that's the basic introduction to them. They are trying to build this time machine to get into the Odyssey thing, which is apparently either a science fair, a science group, garage band, some sort of corporation thing.
It's not like this punk rock garage, like worker
it's
shop.
It's not really well established. So anyway, so that's their introduction. They meet this guy. I forget what his actual name is. He has shades on, but he tries to help them. And when they actually turn it on, they start to see these weird, I don't know what you'd call them, figures wearing odd science fiction garb.
They remind me of the cleaners from Monsters Inc. just wearing a different color suit.
Yes, completely. Yeah. So They are not actually physical beings on this plane for some reason, but Sumesh and Nat just start seeing them everywhere, including the Shades guy, and they don't quite know what that means. And then they do actually are able to interact with one of them, or Sumesh is able to capture one, but it damages the time machine in the process. And then, so they made this character named Zero, who is sort of the head of the Odyssey Corporation. They try to get her help, but she isn't very friendly. And they go to this weird sort of unmarked club that is the Odyssey Club, or a bunch of science enthusiasts gather to talk about weird tech. And then they have this weird piece that they stole from that original compound, stolen from them by Zero, and they have to go chase Zero down at her compound, which Shades know where it is, and then they get it, and right at the very end, Sumesh puts it into the time machine and vanishes, and Nat is left alone, and then lo and behold, a week later, the time machine appears with a note from Sumesh saying, I'm okay, come to the future. Did I miss anything?
No, that was it.
And then, well,
Okay.
and then there's the epilogue where she goes to the future.
And meets up with him. Yeah.
Okay.
And they live happily ever after. The end.
Or not.
Staring off the binary sunset like Luke Skywalker.
Anybody have any thoughts you want to start out with while I look up something?
I'll start off, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really wanted to like this. I'm obviously a huge science fiction dork. I love the fact that it had a sort of a weird, funky style to it. I like rebellious youths, obviously. And queer inclusivity, I think we can all agree, is a wonderful thing in media. But for whatever reason, it just, like someone said earlier, it just didn't go anywhere. And for me, the science fiction element of the world just either wasn't established well enough, or just kept changing, or just wasn't set in any sort of reality that made sense, even as it was constantly evolving. Yeah, I mean, even my rambling summary of the thing obviously didn't make sense, because there were a lot of obvious questions of who the villains really are, what they're after, why on earth Sumesh's parents were killed. There were just a lot of very strange story decisions that were made that for me just took me out of it.
I was just going to say, like when you find out Zero was the one that killed Sumesh's parents, you never really got an explanation why. It was just, oh, I killed them.
Well, she said something like
cool.
She couldn't allow them to go back in time and have a kid, because then he would become some weird time paradox or whatever. But his parents were literally time-traveling researchers from different eras. So how his birth threw it all into wax, it does not make sense.
Well, and if their kid really would have been some sort of paradox, wouldn't they have killed Sumesh as a baby? Because Zero knew he was there.
Right.
She's like, oh yeah, I was here to watch you. Well, if I was going to be a paradox, you should have just
taken care
killed me right away.
Yeah.
No, it's there's a lot that didn't make sense, that seemed to happen just for the sake of convenience. Like, oh,
yeah,
what's happened? I got to progress the story. There's got to be a villain. It's going to be this person.
Yep.
Yeah. That being said, the thing that I really liked about this the most was probably just the back and forth between Natalie and Sumesh, like their actual relationship or interactions. I really liked. It was kind of the actual story that framed it. I didn't kind of like. It's kind of like me with the Amazing Spider-Man movie. Like, I really like the chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, and as Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, but then kind of the rest of the movie
less so.
Less so, yeah.
No, I can get that. Todd, what are your thoughts?
So reading this, it's my closest comparison. There's a few thoughts about it. In general, this reminds me a lot of the movie Troy, and it's an example where you have all of these individual pieces that have been brought together, and you look individually at the pieces like, oh, if this all came together, this could be great and fun. And somehow it accomplishes the opposite of synergy, and it just, the sum of its parts are less altogether as it's going through. And it's like something didn't quite congeal, it didn't quite fit, it's underbaked, might be a way to put it.
Okay.
It's a bit underbaked because it's obviously set in the future of sometimes where kids going to high school are trying to create a time machine that nobody else has ever created. And you still have, so it's like, oh, look, I'm in the science fiction-y moment, and yet it still looks like a early 2000s household with the ideals of that era. So it feels like stuff's being tacked on and put together, but things haven't marinated all the way through.
Timeline-wise, it actually did say Los Angeles now-ish.
Now-ish, okay. Now-ish with things...
But I still agree. It didn't feel like it had established what sort of science fiction parameters it was for being semi-present day.
So it's sitting there, and it's just... This really needs another few drafts at the end of the day. So I think the art style is fun. Some of these characters are fun. You've got Natalie, who has... this trans embracing it, and as you watch it, you see getting ready, and she's very much wearing, emphasizing all the extreme feminine aspects of her, and yet it's still like, a teenage punk kid at the end of the day. And it's the clothing, it's like in a science fiction way, wasn't crazy outlandish at the same time. I mean, you've got their one friend going, "Oh, is he driving like a steampunkish version of the Knight Rider vehicle?" It's not steampunk, but an over the top. As you just watch this, it's like, oh, here's somebody who loves the 80s. Here is this. The 80s are back, I guess. And you have this other stuff going on. It's like, I think I'd just rather be reading Paper Girls.
Yeah, and you don't like Paper Girls.
I didn't really care for Paper Girls because...
It's gotten really cool, to be honest with you, because I've continued to read that, and it's actually gotten really cool.
Okay. But as I read this this reminds me of stuff that's better. That's what it's going through. And I haven't read other things by the author, but at the end of the day, it reminds me of going, it just wasn't quite ready. And I think they just pulled the trigger too soon.
Yeah, I think this is, for me, it feels like it's one of those books that got a lot of attention because it had a trans character, and I think that they dealt with that relatively well.
And I believe the writer is trans as well.
Okay. But I feel like it got a lot. I think it got a lot of attention, but I think that it might have been a little too. Wasn't quite prepared for prime time to get that kind of recognition. You know what I mean? Which is, I think, an unfortunate thing. But like that was, we had that sort of argument one of the first years we did Pride books.
Yes.
Where representation is helpful, but if it's still not necessarily a quality book, that doesn't necessarily help anybody. You know what I mean? Representation in a quality book is probably the best thing that can possibly happen, in my opinion.
And
but
you've got this representation doesn't excuse the lack of quality.
Yes, I agree with that.
At the same time.
It's important to have that representation, and I think it's a good step in the right direction, but I don't think it's necessarily as beneficial as it could be. You know what I mean? I don't know. I also feel like I would like to see that trans representation be a little more pivotal to the plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or at least Natalie's character just be more pivotal. Because right now, she just plays like the supportive girlfriend. And Sumesh has the dead parents. He's the one really building the time machine. He's doing a lot of things that are actually affecting the story, whereas Natalie is just kind of there. And that was one of the disappointing parts for me.
And it seemed from at least starting the story that Natalie was the main character, but then Sumesh is all the
yeah.
So it's a little bit of a Raiders of the Lost Ark issue because you watch that Indiana Jones, absolutely nothing he does matters, and it wouldn't have changed the plot in any way if he was there or not. So it's kind of like we're watching these events unfurl through this person's eyes, but we've got, instead of having a faceless narrator, we've got someone that's interacting, but it's someone else's story.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Nope, it's true. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that? There isn't a whole lot to talk about. We've kind of dissected this relatively quickly. You know what I mean?
The art style is a lot of fun, and I really, I got to dig out of that. It was fun. It's doing its own thing. There was a little bit of that 80s, but I am unfairly biased against some of that, and for whatever reason, it's like someone putting too much, what's that stupid, terrible Mexican flavor thing? Come on, help me out.
What?
Tastes like soap.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Cilantro?
Cilantro. It's like you overly cilantro the thing. So, too much cilantro, it's like a little bit of 80s. It's like, yeah, I'm done.
Jason, I'm glad you got that because I didn't know where the fuck he was going with that.
Hey,
Yeah,
he got there.
There was actually like
I was really
there was a
confused.
scientific study done to determine that I think it's either 30 or 40% of the population, whenever they eat cilantro, it tastes like soap. The other percent of the population doesn't taste soap, but I read that article and ever since then I've always thought that. So
Thank you for helping me out.
you're welcome.
But yeah, so it turns it in there, and you're like, it just infects everything for me. So it's not fair, but there it is. But in general, I enjoyed the art.
No, the art is a good. The art is of a good quality, and I do enjoy it. I think it has a cool style to it. It kind of gets that punk rock vibe that I think they're going for a little bit. I think that helps that out. But yeah, it loses in some other places.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if this is due to the artist or how it was written, but sometimes some of the other big dramatic moments or little moments seem to either be missing a few beats. Like I got kind of lost in some of the action sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Does anybody have any cocktails that they're ready with
If you
this
give me
week?
about
Sure.
10 seconds.
Well, I will start with mine real fast while everyone gets their stuff together. Mine is called the Time Traveler. It is 3/4 of an ounce of Citadel Gin, 3/4 of an ounce of Luxardo Maraschino liqueur, 3/4 of an ounce of Saint Germain, and 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Shake with ice and strain into a rocks glass. Really simple, straightforward, to the point, but time travel themed drink. So, and apparently kind of a classic named one too. So, Mr. Todd, do you have a cocktail?
Yeah, I'm calling mine the Arc Light. It's a play on the electric lemonade. So you've got 1.5 ounces of citron vodka, 1/2 ounce of blue curacao, 2 ounces of sour mix, and 12 fluid ounces of a lemon lime flavored beverage. Now, the first three ingredients you put into a shaker, shake the shit out of it with ice. You pour into a Collins glass with some ice, and then you top it off with your lemon lime. So you've got this brightly colored electric arc light.
Mr. Jason, do you have a cocktail?
I do. It is really just a fancy gin and tonic. I'm going to call it the Natalie. So what you do first is you mix 2 cups of water with 8 dashes of butterfly pea flower extract. So you want to fill your ice cube tray with that and freeze, and you'll make some ice cubes. And once you've got those blue ice cubes, you put them in a glass, garnish with a lime wedge, and then in a cocktail shaker, you want to mix your gin, which is 2 ounces of gin, 4 ounces of tonic water, a tablespoon of lime juice, and then mix that all up, and then you pour it over the glass, and you watch it change into something beautiful.
Okay.
2 things.
I like it.
What was the shit you put in the ice cubes again?
Butterfly pea flower extract.
What is that?
It's essentially just a natural food coloring.
Okay, because I heard pea flour. I'm like, you want me to put pea flour into ice?
Butterfly pea flower extract.
And then the other scary thing is, so you're shaking up tonic water?
You just mix it. Excuse me, just mix it.
All right, so stir it around. All right, I'm like, that'd be a mess.
Yes, that would be.
Okay, sounds that sounds interesting. So it's the food coloring. Got it. All right, that's cool. Sorry.
No worries, Mr.
Maya?
Mr. Maya, what's your cocktail?
My drink is called the Time Machine. It's 2 ounces of Four Roses single cask bourbon.
Big spender here.
1/2 ounce of Bullet Rye.
Four Roses isn't terribly expensive. That's good shit, but it's not expensive. It's like 20 or 30 bucks a bottle.
1/2 ounce of Bullet Rye, 1/2 ounce of pecan whiskey, 1 teaspoon of butter shots, and 2 drops of, I'll just say bitters. You're going to stir the ingredients together, and then just pour it into a glass over rocks.
Is it an Angostura or the Peychaud's bitters?
It's the Bitterman's Burlesque.
Bitterman's Burlesque? What's that? Okay.
And just bitters.
Bitters it is.
Hooray for bitters. Well, cool. Any parting thoughts before we go into final grades?
No, we've said what we're going to... I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So for final grades, for our first grade for self-contained for this book, what is your grade, Mr. Jason?
For self-contained, I'll say it's an A.
Mr. Todd?
Start, beginning, middle, end, and I have no desire to read on. That's an A.
Mr.
That's a
Maya?
good thing because there isn't anymore. Self-contained.
Yeah. That's one of the things I was looking up to see if it got continued, because like my trade says book 1, but I'm like, are there more books to this? So there are not.
I'm going to give it an A. It's self-contained. Everything wraps up.
I will agree with that. I will give it an A for self-contained. For writing for
Visaggio.
What is your grade, Mr. Todd?
Yeah, it's a C. I needed more drafts.
Okay. Mr. Jason.
It is also a C.
Okay. I will stick with everybody else with a C as well. I think it starts out strong and then kind of falls apart. Mr. Maya.
I am also at a C. You know, like I said, the interaction between Natalie and Sumesh is good, but everything else didn't really do it for me. So,
for art, for Donovan, Aguirre, Sam.
It's Donovan, by the way. Donovan.
Orga. Donovan.
You know, Donovan.
Okay, Donovan.
There we go.
Okay.
Brian, you need some sleep.
Here's the thing. A, I need some sleep. B, I'm not good with names in general, reading them like and then...
Sorry.
What's your grade? Mr. Todd?
You know, I'm going to give it a B- because there's just a little bit of soap still in the taste.
Okay. Mr. Jason?
Mine is actually also a B-.
Okay, and I'll give it a B. I actually like the art. Okay. Okay, so for final overall grades, what is your grade, Mr. Todd?
You know, I had an A, a C, and a B-, but a B- is too high. So it's a C+.
I'm going to go with a C myself. I'm kind of like, the art didn't make up for the writing falling apart, in my opinion. Mr. Jason, what is your grade?
I'm also a C+.
Okay. And Mr. Maya?
I too am a C+.
And we come out to a 2.47, which is actually just above a C+. So we have a C+ grade point average. That seems pretty accurate compared to what we have.
So, as an interesting note here, just so it is, here in the great state of Utah, they have pretty much phased out letter grades in the K through 12 system.
Oh, really? Is it like just emojis?
It feels that way. It's like approaching proficiency, proficient, and exceeding, and awesome.
And then the poop emoji.
And then the poop emoji.
Steam on it.
Yes.
It really didn't do well.
For the kid who eats glue.
Yep, we have an emoji for him too. But yeah, it's like these whole letter things for a while, like, oh, you get an E because an F is bad, but no, they're just the letters are just kind of gone. And I'm like, huh.
Well, next week we are going to read The Fix. Jason and I actually met the artist for this book when we were at LA Comic-Con. I bought some art from him.
Oh.
Jason, you might remember that. The guy, Steve Lieber, who I bought the Batman page off of.
Yeah. He was a nice guy.
He's the artist for next week's book.
Nice.
The one original page that I own is from when Steve Lieber was here in Utah. And it's probably one of my favorite comic book pages ever made. It's from Superior Foes of Spider-Man, where the head of Silvermane is with the Shocker, and Shocker takes him to his apartment, and Silvermane was like, "What poor sap did you kill in this poor neighborhood that you're swatting in his apartment?" And Shocker looks at him with the Shocker mask on, but you can see he has a sad face, and he goes, "It's mine. It's rank controlled." In fact, I'm going to go get it and take a picture and send it to you guys.
Nice.
I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it.
Okay.
Well, cool. Well, I know Todd is the original one to recommend this book to me. So, Todd, do you want to give us a preview for what next week's book is?
So, it's The Fix. It's got this duo with his little dog and going about in Sunnyside, it's California, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It's in California, and they're investigators and hijinks ensue.
Wackiness ensues. We're playing up the bromance aspect a little bit for this comic book couple for next week. Anybody have any recommendations they want to jump in with?
If you want to read a better version of this, read Paper Girls.
That's the only time you'll hear Todd recommend Paper Girls. Even though I would recommend it because I actually really liked it. Mr. Jason, do you have any recommendations?
I don't, but since I've got it in my hand and I had sent a picture of it to you, Descender by Jeff Lemire, would you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. I would absolutely recommend the book, Descender. I love that book a lot.
If you need a sci-fi kick, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That book is... the basic gist of it is it's about a sort of a giant robot that comes through and kills a large portion of humanity. So they somewhat outlaw certain robots, and then one robot who had been a child companion and had been turned off for over a decade comes back online and has a similar pattern to like his neurons to the giant robot that came through and killed a huge portion of humanity. So all these different factions, for various different reasons, are trying to get a hold of this child robot. It basically it goes on. They did 5 trades of Descender, and then it ends, and then it becomes Ascender. And so the series is still going, but it's going to be like the storyline changes into a different book. But it's a Jeff Lemire book. The art is I don't remember who the art was by.
Yeah, Dustin
Nguyen. Which I think is also really great, fun watercolor art. So yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of that book. So yes, I would most definitely recommend that. Mr. Maya, do you have any recommendations?
I do, and it's something that you've recommended before. Actually, I have a couple of recommendations. DC, if you have Comixology Unlimited, DC and Vertigo just added a whole bunch of stuff. And if you wanted to read that full Grant Morrison Doom Patrol run that Brian's been pimping, it's all on there for free if you have the subscription. Something else that I just saw. Clean Room, which we also did. All 3 volumes are on there. So if you want to read those among a ton of other things, check out Comics.
So Adam says you should read those. I'm on the fence.
The one that I'm going to recommend is if you want a really, really... It's short. It's super short. It was only 3 issues. But if you want a really, 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 really weird Grant Morrison book, check out Sea Guy. And I told Todd about this last week. But it's on Comixology Unlimited.
Does anybody else have any other final recommendations before we move on?
No.
Nope.
Well, awesome. Well, so next week, join us for The Fix. And thank you for joining us. And if nobody else has anything else, we will see you later.
Bye.
I can hear everyone prepping. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, bye. Okay, cool.
Thank you for joining us. Please rate us on whatever service you listen on. And remember, at least we're not cinema queens.